is barren of promises. Nothing shall forestall my return. To become the dew that quenches the land, to spare the sands, the seas, the skies, I offer thee this silent sacrifice.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Tonight I want to bring you a theory video, but a little bit different theory video on Final Fantasy VII Remake. I wanted to cover Genesis. I wanted to completely cover this character in this video, but to do that, I'm going to have to do this in two parts, right? So the first part of the video, the first part of this theory, I want to do the video just divulging all the information on Genesis, what we know right now from Crisis Core and a few other things, and basically everything out there about the character and how I feel the character works into Final Fantasy VII's lore. What's great about the character, and kind of, you know, the execution was off a little bit, I think, with the character, but when you dive into the character, what it is and the concepts around the character, it's actually a really great character, and we're going to get into it, right? The first video is that. The second video is going to be where I see him fitting in based on all the information presented here in this first video. But I wanted them to be in bite-sized segments for you, so it's not one huge video you have to devote a whole lot of time to. You can hit one now, and you can hit one later, however you want to do it. But I'm going to jump right into it. I'm not going to waste any of your time. I want to get right into it. But first I want to say, if you like the content on the channel, throw a like on this video. If you like the video, subscribe to the channel. Moving in the right direction. I'm happy you all are enjoying the channel, having a good time here at the channel. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. Now, for those that don't know much about Genesis, I pulled a lot of information from this, and as well as what I know from playing through Crisis Core and some of the documents you can find in Dirge of Cerberus. Everything else I pulled from the 592-page Crisis Core Ultimania that was released by Square Enix back in 2007. Now we're going to start with his upbringing. In Crisis Core, he's around 25 years old, but he grew up in the town of Benora with his childhood friend and fellow soldier first class member, Angeal. An interesting fact real quick for all of you Final Fantasy VII Remake fans, the Benora white posters that are all over Midgar, that is a juice drink that is harvested from the dumb apples grown only in Benora. They can only grow there within the world of Gaia. And Genesis is the one that created the drink when he was a kid. So right from the start in Remake, there is a sign of Genesis. Now, Angeal's family was poor and common. On the other hand, Genesis' family were the landlords of Benora. Though things weren't so bright and cheery for Genesis. Even though he was raised in a sort of privileged life, it turns out he was actually adopted. He often lived under the suspicion that the parents he grew up with were in fact not his real parents. He grows to feel betrayed by both his biological and his adopted parents. Now fast forward to the Shinra/Soldier First Class years. Genesis is an extremely powerful member of Soldier. He even considered to be on par with Sephiroth in terms of power and potential. It's even speculated that Genesis' aptitude for magic is greater than Sephiroth. However, the silver-haired son of Genova seems to have greater battle prowess. Genesis is a very prideful guy, very prideful man. He takes pride in his good looks, he takes pride in his incredible abilities in both physical combat as well as his distinguished magical abilities. I mean, he had that shot in Crisis Core that I thought was dope, where he imbues his rapier that he uses with that magical abilities, right? Magical power. He doesn't use materia. He doesn't have to. He has the abilities of Genova woven into his DNA, basically. So that's one of the really, really cool things about Genesis. He loves the popularity that all of this affords him. He, along with Sephiroth and Angeal, actually have fan clubs in the Crisis Core game. However, he's a loner. This is one of the things I find very interesting about Genesis. Most of the members of Soldier are crazy because of the Mako infusion process they undergo, not to mention their eventual cellular degradation, which is the leading cause of death among soldiers. In the world of Final Fantasy VII, Genesis at one time was pretty much just a rock star. absolute rock star. He was beloved everywhere he went. He wasn't considered the hero Sephiroth was, but he was a real popular guy. However, he had no interest in being around people other than to smile and wave and bask in the adoration. He would rather be alone with his thoughts and dreams of being the greatest hero in all of Gaia. The only people he ever truly opened up to were his close buddies Angeal and Sephiroth. Genesis and Sephiroth were actually great friends. They were very tight. Along with Angeal, they were as close as brothers. Though he considers Sephiroth a friend, Genesis is extremely envious of him. Genesis wants to be known as the great hero, however, that distinction goes to Sephiroth, the great hero of the Wutai War, and we all know all about that. If you know about the Final Fantasy VII lore and everything, that was why all the young men in the world idolized Sephiroth and wanted to be a soldier, was because of the stuff he did in Wutai, which hopefully we get to see some of that in like flashbacks in Remake. I would love to see a battle with Sephiroth and Godo going at it during the Wutai War. That would be incredible. Genesis seems to have risen above the psychosis that most soldiers suffer from because of the Mako infusion process and the eventual cellular degradation. Or has he? Okay, so here's something I've been digging into. As many fans, as well as myself, have complained in the past, Genesis seems way too fascinated with the Loveless poem. However, what if this infatuation with Loveless and his desire to act out the play through the stage of his life, what if this is actually his way of channeling that psychosis into something less destructive? Right? Because at his heart, Genesis really is a good guy. He has a hero's heart, he's a good guy, but he's really messed up. Like, he's been really messed up by his childhood. There's a lot of psychology into the character, and he's the type of guy who someone with a powerful mind can manipulate, right? But it would make sense for a guy like this to channel what he feels like is going to be a destructive, psychotic nature brought on by the experiments that he had undergone. And he knows this is a thing because he would have seen people already starting to suffer from this, right? What if he's channeling that into his infatuation with Loveless? That would make sense. I mean, he looks at himself, Sephiroth, Angeal, and Zack as characters in the play. That does sound a little crazy. Something to think about, though. It is really something to think about with that character. That actually makes me look at that aspect of the character in a different way. Now, I'm still not crazy about it, but it makes it look like more of a coping mechanism rather than an outright infatuation. And I think that is one way to go with that character, and I think that's kind of cool, right? It takes away the sting of his constant infatuation with this thing, which really holds the character back from being just an amazing character. I think that's one of the reasons that people just didn't like him very much, right? So the question is, where did it all go wrong for Genesis? If you don't know, if you didn't play Crisis Core, if you don't know much about the story or anything like that at all, well, it all started with an injury he sustained during a sparring session where he and Angeal challenged Sephiroth to a quote-unquote friendly duel, thinking it just a minor wound that he sustained when Angeal's soldier sword broke and gashed him pretty deep in the left shoulder. Genesis thought it would heal quickly. This wound's going to heal quickly. But the wound did not heal and started to fester. This triggered his cellular degradation. Enter Hollander, one of the major Shinra scientists at the time. Now here's a quick bit about Hollander that you're going to need to know moving forward with this story and this one character. As we all know, Hojo headed up the Project S that created Sephiroth. However, there was also Project G, being conducted around the same time. Hollander was the head of that. A woman named Jillian, who was the mother of Angeal, was the beginning of Project G. Genova cells were combined with hers to create the G cells that would be what Hollander used to experiment on the G Project subjects. And when Angeal was born, she passed Genova's abilities on to him naturally. So he was not experimented on. He was born from Jillian, that's his mother, and he inherited all those abilities naturally. Genesis was merely injected at a very young age. Hollander looks at Angeal as the perfect creation of the G Project and Genesis as a failed test subject, as evidenced by the degradation beginning within him. Shinra looks at Sephiroth and Project S as the greatest accomplishment between the two projects and names Hojo as the head of Shinra, their Department of Science and Research. Hollander remains an employee of Shinra, but he is disgraced and starts to hate Hojo and Shinra. So Sephiroth was the ultimate success because his body never degrades. He's the one that, he's fit, prime all the time, super powerful. Fit, prime all the time, super powerful. That kind of rhymed. Hollander tells Genesis the truth about the details surrounding his true parents and the circumstances of his childhood. He also tells Genesis what is happening with the cellular degradation that is beginning to progress within him, and convinces Genesis that he can help cure him of it. Armed with the knowledge that Hollander revealed to him, Genesis comes to hate Shinra for what they had done to him and countless others throughout the experiments, and he leaves. He leaves the company. He leaves, deserts them right toward the end of the Wutai War. Not only does he hate Shinra, but pretty much everyone associated with them, except for Sephiroth, with whom he still has a sort of a brotherhood/kinship with. When Genesis betrays Shinra and Soldier, he takes a lot of third and second class soldiers with him. And this is around the end of the Wutai War, like I said earlier. But again, this was an action concocted by Hollander. This is Hollander manipulating Genesis. Like I said earlier at the beginning of this thing, Genesis is kind of a guy with some mental damage and can be manipulated. Even though he's very powerful, he can be manipulated. And that does happen in Crisis Core. Angeal joins Genesis shortly thereafter, and the Genesis Rebellion gets fully underway. Genesis eventually kills his adopted parents, feeling they had a hand in the manipulation that had led him down this current path for all these years. And also, never having really trusted them as it was, I guess it was kind of an easy choice for him to go ahead and take care of that, take his vengeance or whatever you want to call it there. Now here's one of the really interesting things about Genesis and Angeal. They can copy themselves onto other people, and in Angeal's case, other animals and stuff. This ability is a result directly associated with Project G. Genesis' cells are injected into the soldiers that rebelled with him, and he essentially creates an army of copies of himself. They can use his abilities, they look just like him, all that kind of stuff that you can imagine. However, the major flaw with his copies is that their cellular degradation progresses much more rapidly than that of Genesis himself. Given where he found himself at that time, Genesis resigned himself to the idea that Sephiroth, Angeal, and himself were nothing more than monsters. So, Genesis and Zack meet in battle a few times throughout the story of Crisis Core, and over their encounters, Genesis develops a respect for the genuinely good-natured Zack Fair. There's a good amount of similarity between the two characters, as a matter of fact. The main being their obsessions with being revered as great heroes. The difference here, though, is that Genesis feels entitled to it, whereas Zack looks to earn it through his deeds and helping others. At the end of the story, Zack defeats Genesis and sends his consciousness into the Lifestream. There he meets Minerva, who I feel like is the Lifestream, like choosing to manifest this form in the eyes of Genesis because of his infatuation with the goddess in the Loveless poem. Or however you choose to interpret this, basically. However, he is rejected from entering the Lifestream. Now, according to the Crisis Core Ultimania, Genesis was trying to regain his pride as a soldier, and he decided that it could not be found merely through acts of heroism, like Zack, because Zack never turned away from the path of a hero. He stayed true the whole time. So Genesis feels like he would have to be more to almost kind of live up to what he feels like Zack Fair has become, this amazing hero that he always thought he could be. But he knows now, or he feels now, that the only way he can regain his honor is by accepting his cellular degradation and bravely facing his death. Genesis had a strong desire to complete his duty as a soldier, and this is acknowledged by the Lifestream. It's acknowledged in a way, at least, like it's saying to him, then go complete it, then go do what you were supposed to do. Minerva's disagreeing facial expressions in this scene are meant to be hints that the Lifestream's judgment is that Genesis has not yet fulfilled his calling and that he still has much to learn. So then what happens? Well, we see Genesis being flung from the Lifestream back toward his body, and back on the physical plane, we see Zack picking up Genesis and beginning to make his way out. But there's one thing very different in this shot. All evidence of his cellular degradation is miraculously gone. Long has there been a theory that Genesis merely imagined the Lifestream sequence, but that he wasn't really there. This is proof that he was actually in the Lifestream, communing with the Lifestream, and that the planet chose to heal him and send him back. Well, back to his body, or however you want to interpret that, but that's what happened there. This will be very crucial for when I talk about his possible importance in Remake. Genesis has moments of consciousness while in Zack's care where he could speak and look around briefly toward the end of the game. Genesis is an honorable soldier despite his slightly self-absorbed and entitled personality. And he really does develop a bond with Zack. Even if it's just through battle, or Zack feels bad for him and Genesis kind of respects kind of the man that Zack has become, there is a bond there. Basically, through his encounters with Zack and seeing his truly selfless heroism, Genesis has grown to deeply respect Zack and sees him as a truly honorable soldier, like another brother. That will be important for later, class. Pay attention, class. That one right there is going to be important for later. Ultimately, Zack left Genesis resting against a chair as he, with Cloud in tow, made their way to Midgar and the collision course with Zack's ultimate fate. What happened to Genesis then? Well, as Genesis is still physically recovering from everything that just happened to him, a Shinra helicopter appears in the sky with two soldiers talking.
This must be an important matter if they are sending the two of us.
Apparently the subject will become our brother.
Is that so? But will he
Accept his fate willingly?
Deepground soldiers Whis and Nero come to collect Genesis and take him back to Reactor Zero. Now, here's a quick bit about Deepground, real quick. According to the Shinra records, it was originally a medical division for wounded soldier members. However, the original area of Deepground was built beneath the Shinra Tower and housed Mako Reactor Zero to power the entire Deepground facility and the Shinra Tower above it. Before the end of the war with Wutai, it was reformatted into a secret prison for human experimentation. The goal of the facility? Create more powerful and loyal soldiers replacing the current crop. So, once Whis and his brother Nero return to Deepground with Genesis, they implore him to join them to rebel against the facility and take over Deepground. Okay, here's the thing. Genesis is a good guy, and he's just messed up in the head. But he's not like a villain who's messed up in the head. He's a good guy who's messed up in the head, right? So that's what's interesting about him right now. And he is looking to redeem himself with this second chance that the planet has given him. So he decides, he declines and decides it is better for himself and everyone around if he goes into a deep slumber until the planet calls upon him for whatever this higher purpose is that it has planned for him. Before this, though, Deepground did acquire a few samples of his cells, which were used to enhance the civets, which were Dirge of Cerberus villains, and which we will not be getting into here, because that's a whole other can of worms. This is the last time chronologically that Genesis is active within the world until the bonus ending scene of Dirge of Cerberus. In this scene, you can see Genesis awaken from his self-imposed slumber. He kneels down next to the dead body of Whis and says,
It is not yet time for slumber. We still have much work to do. My brother.
Now, is he talking to Whis here? Sephiroth, maybe? Perhaps. But what if it's someone else that ties into Remake? What if right here, Genesis is talking or addressing or referring to Zach Fair? Now that you got all that information on Genesis, I will talk about a little bit of the theory, but this video is already running really long. The theory I have is that he is a bit of a sentinel of the planet, right? That the planet has a bigger purpose for Genesis, and what path he goes, which way he goes, is going to be a little bit different than what a lot of people are suspecting. I think he's going to be chaotic good, and I really do. I think he's going to have all the knowledge that the Lifestream possesses. He will have it willingly given to him because the Lifestream can judge what kind of person you are. The Lifestream sent him get back and gave him another chance and was like, hey, time out. We're going to put you on the bench for right now, but we're going to put you in the game when the time comes. You're going to be very important to help us sort things out here, right? To help us safeguard against some horrible things that are coming. So I think that Genesis will have all the access to the planet's knowledge, and it'll be given to him freely. He'll be able to access it at any time, almost like an ancient. Whereas Sephiroth exists, right? Those two counteract each other a lot in Crisis Core. One is just as powerful as the other. Sometimes one is slightly more powerful, but you get the gist. You get the drift here, right? Sephiroth has to manipulate and trick the planet in Remake into getting all the knowledge and everything that he has. Genesis will be given it freely. The planet will give it to him freely. And that's the end of that video right there. So if you all like that, throw a thumbs up on the video. Part 2 of this theory, where I get into all the theory stuff for Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 and how I think it deals with Genesis. We're getting into that in the next video. So subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like that video. I appreciate it. You all have a great night. Keep rocking. And I will see you all very soon in the Genesis Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 video. So you have a great night. Be safe out there and be good to each other. I'll see you in the next one.